Good morning, everyone. Early on, I heard somebody refer to these times as the Great Confinement. I used that phrase for a while, but then Terry Butts suggested the Great Seclusion, which I liked even better. That set me off on a thesaurus hunt, where I found many more. Imprisonment, shelter, separation, stillness, captivity, retreat, isolation, lockdown, sabbatical. As I read those words out loud, I noticed my feelings changing. Words are labels, and they make a difference. If I call this time the Great Isolation, I will have a very different experience than if I call it the Great Solitude. It will change how I respond and what I learn. For me, this is now the Great Sabbatical. A time away from my customary activities to rest and to learn, to return refreshed and renewed. So, what have I learned about myself and the world around me during my sabbatical? Here it is, folks. I'm okay, you're okay. Wait, don't laugh. I know you sat in those workshops with me in the 70s. I'm okay, you're okay. Wiser words were never spoken. Do I have some worn out, old beliefs, not okay beliefs about myself? Sure, here's one. I still think that I'm not good enough. So to be loved, I have to take care of others. I have to be the one to reach out, offer help, keep the relationship going no matter what, and to say yes to everything that other people ask of me. Am I ready to let go of that old belief? I think I am. Because what I've discovered in the past few months is that I'm loved even if I don't do all of that. This doesn't mean I stop caring about people. It just means I can choose who and when and how. I'm okay, you're okay. I am learning to love myself as I love others. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of backwards from love your neighbor as yourself, but it's not really. It isn't an either-or proposition. I can love myself and love others. Loving myself leads me to self-care. In a recent meeting, we were asked to share self-care ideas right now. Most of us went right to our favorite food treats. But later I was thinking about the phrase guilty pleasures. My special treat is ice cream. I keep the portions small, but I still feel guilty every time I open the freezer. Is it time to let go of that? Or maybe I can just learn to live with my guilt feelings. Or maybe even laugh at them now and then. I decided it was time to relabel guilty pleasures. How about necessary pleasures? Kind of like necessary evils, only better. There's a point where self-discipline becomes self-denial. I am starting to think that I am too old to deny myself so much. On the other hand, I have to remember that there's a difference between self-care, special treats, overindulgence, and downright self-destructive behavior. Why is that important to me? Well, because I want to stay physically active for my whole life, to keep doing what I enjoy. At the very least, I want to be able to walk. To do that, I need to keep my weight down and exercise. I have to balance my short-term desire to sit around the house eating sweets with my long-term desire to stay mobile. So it's a darn good thing that there are lots of other kinds of self-care besides hot fudge sundaes. I can sing, listen to good music, walk in the woods, swim in the ocean, read a book just for fun, dance like no one is watching, look at silly videos, clean a closet, take a nice hot shower, sing in the shower, watch the sunset with a loved one. I recently found a brilliant list of 151 self-care ideas. I can share them with you. I'm okay, you're okay. Other people are using this time so wisely, cooking healthy recipes, beefing up their exercise programs, Watching self-improvement videos, learning a new language, painting, writing, planting tomatoes, or finally finishing that home project. Some days I feel ambitious if I can get up before 11, clean the bathroom, make dinner, and go for a walk. I mean, come on, that's 4 things. I am surprised to find that I'm mostly okay with that. One thing I like about staying home is there seems to be plenty of time. In my circle, I used to hear my friends say all the time, "I just don't have the time," which seems funny because we're supposed to be retired, most of us. These are supposed to be our leisure years, right? Well, now we absolutely do have time. If I don't finish an article or scrub the floor right this minute, I can do it tomorrow. That relieves quite a bit of the pressure I put on myself. I'm okay, you're okay. The other part of self-care is learning to ease up on judging others. Just a few days into our homestay, I was shocked to find out how judgmental I can be. I am known for scolding people for name-calling, yet I found myself screaming at total strangers on TV and Facebook. People who stay home are idiots. People who don't wear masks are killing their grandmothers. It has tapered off, but I can't say that I have let it go entirely. 2 things helped me calm down. First, I realized that these judgments about others were coming from my own fear and anxiety. And second, I noticed that all of my judgments and anger were not generating one change in other people's behavior. So why bother? You're okay, I'm okay. We don't really need to change everything about ourselves to be good enough people. For example, I have always bristled at the slogan, "Just be here now." I have heard this for over 50 years. And all this time, silly me, I thought I was just being here. I don't even know what it means, actually. How do I do it? Wait, listen to that. I just said, how do I do it? How do I stop doing and do being? Honestly, this has never made any sense to me. I'm with Popeye. I am who I am. I've always been more of a doer than a beer. And you know what? It's likely that I'm going to stay that way. I have really been surprised by some of the things I am learning about myself. One is that I'm pretty flexible and adaptable. Another is I am not nearly as much of an extrovert as I thought I was. I'm enjoying hanging out at home more. I don't miss all the activity and social gatherings all that much. I'm not even on the phone as much as I thought I would be. I don't feel the need to discuss everything to death. Is this actually more the real me? Maybe. Feeling less guilty about taking time for myself is something that I want to keep in my life. I'm okay, you're okay. Perhaps you've heard the phrase, "What other people think of me is none of my business." I feel less of a need to impress people now. What I wear, what I add to the discussion, how much time I put into my volunteer work, what spectacular dish I bring to potluck. So much of what I do is for other people to see and admire. And because I think so much about the opinions of others, I don't always make the time and the space for what is really important to me. For instance, Kurtland and I love having long conversations about things that really matter to us, but we don't really do it that much. Even now we are apart a lot, each of us doing our own thing. If we don't set up a time to be together, it doesn't just happen. This is something I want to change. I'm okay, you're okay. Gratitude is extremely important for my mental and spiritual health. For me, gratitude is appreciation. Even more, it's about wonder and awe. A week into our sabbatical, a pair of sandhill cranes found the bird feeders in our backyard. We were so excited. We knew from past experience that once cranes discover a good restaurant, They tend to become regular customers, so we suspected they'd be back. And they are, every day. Their loud, raucous trumpeting brings me outside to the sun and fresh air, the trees and flowering bushes, and our pond with its ever-changing surface. And so many birds to watch. Geese, ducks, doves, mockingbirds, brown thrashers, cardinals, herons, egrets, and one poor lonely cormorant. It seems as if there are a lot of more birds than ever before. Is that really true? Or were they always there and I just wasn't paying attention? I am learning to appreciate each bird without comparing. There are no lesser beings in nature. Yeah, the red cardinal might be more flashy than the gray and brown mourning dove. Perhaps the antics of the goose are more amusing than the placid stalk of the heron. And surely the stately crane is more regal than the turkey vulture. But can I notice the cooperation of the doves? Can I learn something from the stillness and patience of the heron? Do I admire the effortless soaring of the vultures and remember to thank them for keeping the earth cleaned up? I am learning just to sit and watch and savor these wonderful creatures, instead of always grabbing my camera so I can share their beauty or antics with others. To take the time to really connect, to look deeply into a crane's eyes, or to laugh with a clever squirrel trying to break into our bird feeder. My time in our backyard has been a profound lesson in gratitude and appreciation. But I realized that I need to broaden my active appreciation to all that I have, the many comforts of our house when others have no home at all, the food and clean water we obtain so easily when others are scrabbling for their next meal, our health and access to medical care when others are suffering not only with this new virus, but with other afflictions of the body, mind, and spirit, our family and dear friends who care about us, and last but never least, Kurtland, the great love of my life, my Sherpa, my faithful companion who supports me, appreciates me, and puts up with my shortcomings. I can even appreciate the opportunity to try new things. At first, Zoom was just a necessity for business meetings, but now we use it to connect with our church family and loved ones scattered across the globe. And I cannot remember when I have been more grateful for humor. Now more than ever, I need to laugh. The internet is loaded with genius photos and videos and brilliant one-liners like this one. I love how ads have changed from buy a Toyota to this is a difficult and uncertain time for us all. Buy a Toyota. I am now grateful for the hardest lesson for me to learn, to love those I love ever more deeply, to welcome new love into my life when it comes, and to release those I need to let go into the loving arms of the universe. I have a lot to feel thankful for, and the strange truth is that this great sabbatical has brought me more than it has taken away. Life will be different. The world is changing. I know that what I have learned has changed me too. It is up to me to hold on to those changes. Meanwhile, I'm okay, you're okay. Kurtland has chosen a different word to describe this time in his life. He will tell you all about his retreat.
Well, Mother Earth has finally done it. She's put her spoiled kids into a timeout. I can just hear her. As long as you're living in my house, there are laws. You follow, or there are consequences. Now you go to your houses and you think and feel what you have done. Before COVID-19, I had a very active routine. There was tennis, strength training at the gym, friends, visiting shut-ins, eating out, movies with the guys on Tuesdays, running 2 small groups, and on and on. And then, surprise, COVID-19 retreat. Gaia indicated my choice of social distancing was to call the pandemic a retreat. This is a place we go to learn. I chose this label because I believe there are always lessons and purpose in chaos. When I go on retreat, I like to reread Rumi's guest poem. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and attend them all. Even if there is a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. They just may be clearing you out for some new delight. Now, the message in Rumi's poem for me is to welcome the guests within my psyche without judgment, without resistance, and they will change you for the better. Who are these guests? They are the messengers or people and situations that upset me and thwart and dismiss me, causing pain. The messengers are the unintegrated, not yet resolved, emotional memories and wounds from early childhood that are being played out through my current adult experiences. If I blame the messengers, more messengers will appear, except they will be meaner. However, if I get the message and allow the raw feelings to wash over me, my disagreeable guests will disappear. In December 2019, while on a 4-day vision quest in the Kala National Forest, I violated this poem's message on a number of occasions. However, I did eventually get the message, so it was not catastrophic. Here is one example where I was not a welcoming host. I was sitting on a secluded lake enjoying all that nature could bring. I noticed a large bird across the way. I pulled out my binoculars, and as I found the bird, I remember saying to myself, oh, it's just a vulture. Well, a little later, more vultures joined that first one that I saw, and then 5, 10, 15, over 20 vultures. One of them came over to check me out. The next thing I know, they're all circling me, and they're coming closer and closer, so close that I could hear the swish of their wings. And I thought, wow, they're really great flyers. And then all of a sudden, I got anxious and I pinched myself, thinking, no, I'm still alive. Why are they giving me this attention? Then I finally got it. I had put out an intention to honor all guests, and the vulture became the messenger, letting me know that dissing the vulture as just a vulture was not okay. I got up, took a bow to the vulture, and I said, I am so sorry. Now every time I see a vulture, I smile. Thank the vulture for its message. As my COVID-19 retreat grew in duration, what I noticed was an increase in feelings. I often find myself grieving. I cry for the people who are forced to die, isolated from loved ones. I cry for the health workers who cannot provide emotional support while covered with protective gear and fear of contacting this virus themselves. I also cry for joy as I witness the upwelling of compassion and community springing up all over the world. I am also saddened and angry that a number of people, including some of our elected leaders, would promote economics and their own power over people's lives. I have also experienced feelings of anxiety, depression, and boredom. But instead of freaking out, I just notice as I say, "Hey, good morning, anxiety. How you doing?" Or, "Hello, boredom. Where you been?" Now, if anxiety, for example, hangs around, then I may have a longer conversation. I may say, "Okay, take a deep breath. What is it you would like to tell me?" Now, with anxiety, for example, when I ask anxiety what it was trying to tell me, here's what emerged. Part of my anxiety is that both Gaia and I are the most vulnerable to die from this illness, this virus. This fact has forced me to deal with death. Now, people who know me, they know that I'm not much of a technology person, a technophobe, and I've turned over all the technology to my partner here, Gaia. And the anxiety is what would happen if Gaia were to die before me. There are passwords, there are wills, there's what to do with this bill and that bill and whatever. And so I was freaking out. I was thinking, okay, well, I could go buy a little cabin in the woods and get a nice dog and a good rocking chair and just hang out there. Or I could suck it up and ask Gaia to educate me, which is kind of what we did. So I got the old school paper and pencil and said, okay, what do I do first, second, third, fourth? And we talked about what we do with the body. And I even discovered that one of the wills is in the refrigerator. Anyway, after that ordeal, I was pretty exhausted. I think overall I'm welcoming these guests of feelings because over the years I have learned, often the hard way, that it's invaluable to my health to recognize feelings, even the ones I don't want to. When I was 37, I first learned the power of embracing my feelings. My father had discovered that my father had a large tumor taken out of his intestines and it was cancer, and my older sister and the doctor didn't seem to want to tell him. Well, I thought that was ridiculous. I would want to know, and so after he recovered from the surgery, I told him that the tumor was cancer. He didn't believe me at first, but I think later he probably knew on some level that I was correct. So I gave him some time to think about that while I ran some errands, and when I came back and I sat by his bed, I said, "How you doing, Dad?" And he looked me in the eye and he said, "Son, I'm really sorry I didn't spend more time with you when you were growing up." Well, I thought I'd been struck by lightning. I had no idea that I had issues with my father at 37. But he, by taking care of himself, he had exposed a cancer of abandonment. And I just had this image of this dam with all this water behind it, and it was breaking, and I had to just distract. And so I said, "Oh, well, that's okay," or something like that, some benign statement, and got out of there as quickly as I could. Well, as time went on, as I drove back home, I thought of that situation and my eyes teared up. When I told my first wife, I started to cry. And then I told the story to my friends and tears started coming out. And what was happening is that exposure of that cancer, the recognizing and acknowledging of the feelings was like chemotherapy. And with a matter of months, I had no more issues of abandonment with my father. At age 48, when I went through this again, this was, I had followed my programming and I had chosen a path that was no longer working, and I was in what's called a midlife crisis on steroids, and I was riddled with scary feelings from my childhood, and my ego convinced me that if I expressed those feelings, I was going to die. So I resisted with everything I could. And what happened was I created this three-headed dragon. One head was fear, another was anger, and the third was grief. I continued to resist, which resulted in fire from the dragon spilling out into my consciousness with nightmares. I had the worst nightmares of my life. I was depressed, and finally, when throat spasms began to happen in my esophagus, I would start choking and I couldn't breathe. And I finally said, okay, I said the magic word, help. I can't do this alone. And as I've discovered on many occasions, when you finally give up and ask for help, a teacher or teachers will appear. This time it became a 6-day Healing the Inner Child retreat, and it was absolutely wonderful retreat. The people were very competent, and even with all that safety, it still took me 4 days to finally allow the dam to break. And I didn't end up dying physically, but certainly a part of me that needed to die did, which allowed me to move to a more authentic self. Now, I have heard it said that we all must go on a journey to discover our true self. Others say the journey should be more of a dance. What I say is when we begin our journey, we are carrying so much weight from our childhood, we can't dance. However, as we journey forth and release the weight, we find our dancer within. For me, the best way to free this dancer is to welcome all feelings. I watched a movie recently about Mr. Rogers, Welcome to My Neighborhood. Mr. Rogers' purpose was to help children acknowledge and find positive ways to deal with their feelings. All feelings, not just positive feelings, but negative feelings. When I can become a Mr. Rogers to my inner child by acknowledging his feelings, I can rediscover the joy and creativity which is my birthright. Now, the COVID retreat has helped me understand many things. However, the most important learning is joy and health is not about feeling good or having life be peaceful or easy. Joy and health is about feeling everything and accepting life just as it is. Rather than trying to feel better, I need to get better at feeling.